This is CNN Breaking News.
We have breaking news coming into CNN right now. The Manhattan District Attorney has agreed to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing in his criminal hush money trial. The president-elect was found guilty of 34 felonies in his case.
Like so many things involving the president-elect, this is uncharted territory, with Trump being the first convicted felon elected to the nation's highest office. We're covering this from all angles, and we begin with CNN's Paula Reed. Paula, tell us what you've learned.
So we've been waiting for this decision because the question is, what happens to President-elect Trump's sentencing that is scheduled for next week? And here, what we're learning is that the district attorney has made it clear they're going to reject and try to defend against any effort to dismiss this case. But they are open to delaying this sentencing for up to 4 years because they understand that it's going to take time to litigate this issue of the future of this case. So they do not agree to dismiss this case, but while that question is being litigated, they understand that the sentencing has to be paused. So President-elect Trump will not be sentenced next week. And the next step is the two parties will litigate this issue. And again, they understand that the sentencing, if it goes forward, may not happen for another 4 years.
Paula, please stand by. Let's go to CNN's Kara Scannell now. Kara, this wasn't exactly a surprise given Donald Trump's election, the unprecedented nature of this, and of course, that Supreme Court decision from over the summer.
Yeah, it raises all sorts of complicated legal issues, having the president-elect facing a conviction in state court and then a potential sentencing by the judge. And add on top of that the Supreme Court's decision on immunity. So those are all the factors that the prosecutors say they have taken into consideration. I mean, they say in here that they deeply respect the office of the president, that they're mindful of the demands and obligations, but they say they also deeply respect a jury's verdict. And it was 12 New Yorkers who delivered that guilty verdict for Donald Trump in May, finding him guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. So prosecutors saying that they are still going to fight to maintain this conviction. So Donald Trump's team, they're saying they're okay with postponing the sentencing so Trump's team can file their motion to dismiss, and they said they are going to oppose that. They are still asking the judge to move fairly quickly here, saying that they want to file their response to this motion on December 9th because they are expecting this case to be appealed no matter what the decision is, that Trump's team, if they lose, will continue to fight it through appellate courts. And so that is another reason why the district attorney's office says that they don't oppose postponing the sentencing, because they think that would inevitably happen anyway based on how this litigation is expected to play out. So for now, Trump's sentencing is expected to be adjourned. We are still waiting for the judge to actually sign off on that. He is the one that's ultimately in control of that. It's possible Trump's team will file a response to this letter indicating if they agree with this timeline or if they're asking for how much time they should have to file this expected motion to dismiss. So we may hear from them, or we may hear from the judge setting a briefing schedule in this case. But it is still the judge's call on whether to adjourn this sentencing. But with the district attorney agreeing now for the third time that they're okay with postponing it, it is likely that the judge will agree with that as well. Guys?
And Carrie Cordero, you know, a lot can happen. A lot can change in 4 years.
A lot can, and this makes a lot of sense. I mean, at this point, there really is no rush from the court's perspective to get to a sentencing, given the fact that the president is going to be stepping into office, given the fact that he absolutely was going to appeal this case just on the merits of it itself, in terms of the legal questions and the legal theory that the prosecutors brought this case on, and then added to that the additional challenges that he would bring based on the Supreme Court's immunity decision. So even without the immunity decision, I think he would have appealed anyway, just on the interpretations of New York law, and then added to that the Supreme Court decision that he has immunity now that he is reelected and will step back into office in January.
Ellie, no surprise here that the district attorney, Ellie Honig is with us, I should point out. We got the letter from the DA here. No surprise that they're not eager to let this go. And they point out in their letter that there's no law that currently establishes that a president's immunity comes that it requires the dismissal of a post-trial criminal proceeding. In other words, there's nothing in the Supreme Court's ruling that gives a president immunity for being found guilty of something before he was president, let alone for acts that may not be deemed official. Suffice to say, this is complicated.
Yeah, Boris, this is brand new territory. This is the crazy law school hypothetical come to life. We've never had a situation anything like this. But to your question, I see two major takeaways from this filing we just got from the DA. First of all, the DA is okay with adjourning this sentencing indefinitely, which means it will not happen before he takes office if the judge agrees. Karen makes a very important point. This is just the DA's position. Ultimately, it's up to the judge. But the second thing that really jumps out at me is the DA in this letter says what you just said, Boris, about immunity, that it doesn't necessarily cover post-trial proceedings. And so the DA floats the possibility in their letter. They say we want to look into various options, including possibly having his sentencing happen in 2029 when he's done his second term as president. To me, that is a preposterous suggestion just as a practical matter. You can't put off sentence 4+ years. I think Donald Trump would have a very strong argument when this day comes, when he's 82 years old and finishing up his second term, that's just too long to wait. But again, this is all unknown. This is all brand new. But I found that really interesting to see that the DA is actually floating the possibility of pushing sentencing till January 21st, I guess, of 2029.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the practical effect was of pushing something 4 years to when someone's an octogenarian, but it's like you're psychic, Ellie. Kristen Holmes, I want to bring you into this. This is obviously going to be something that is certainly welcome to Trump's ears. I'm sure they would like to completely put all of this to bed. That's not on the table here. But delaying this 4 years is certainly something he must be pleased with.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what Ellie was just saying, Donald Trump's team believes they do have a strong case, that this would not be something that would be feasible to be sentencing in 2029. So they believe that in some ways they have actually won this round. Now, of course, again, I am only talking about how they feel specifically, not exactly what is being said. And this is the statement that they put out. They said, and this comes from Stephen Chung, the spokesperson for Donald Trump, "This is a total and definitive victory for President Trump and the American people who elected him in a landslide. The Manhattan DA has conceded that this witch hunt cannot continue. The lawless case is now stayed, and President Trump's legal team is moving to get it dismissed once and for all." Now, there are some things in there that are not true, but one thing that is true is that they are going to move to dismiss this case. And again, this is all part of what they saw as an overall tactic, not just with this case, but a number of cases. They wanted to delay everything past the election, and that included that sentencing. Remember, the original sentencing was supposed to be before the election. They wanted everything to be delayed because they thought that if he could win, which of course we now know he did, that it would be a lot easier to get rid of, to dismiss these various cases, whether it be through running the Department of Justice or through now these concerns and questions about sentencing a president-elect, and after inauguration, the president of the United States. So they believe they have a strong case now to actually dismiss this, and they will be moving forward with that. Of course, as we've been reporting, this is all going to be in the hands of the judge. This is just the first action. However, Donald Trump's team feels very good right now.
Now, Paula, you were getting a reaction from a source literally 30 seconds before we went on air. What are you hearing?
Yeah, to dovetail what Kristen said, I mean, this is viewed internally as an enormous victory. Remember, this case was defended, though Trump was convicted. This case was defended by Todd Blanche, Trump's nominee to be the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. They have successfully delayed this sentencing, and now they will litigate this issue of the constitutional protections that a president-elect is entitled to. And this parallels a similar conversation that we're seeing related to Trump's federal cases. Jack Smith is in conversations with top Justice Department officials. He believes that it's pretty clear that based on internal Justice Department guidance, you cannot continue cases against a president-elect, and they're working out the mechanics of winding those down, likely dissolving those cases before Trump gets into office. The difference between the federal cases, though, and the state cases, the federal cases, Trump, once he gets in the White House, he could have his attorney general dismiss them. That is not the case at the state level. So now his lawyers really need to succeed on this constitutional issue if they don't want to face this sentencing potentially in about 4.5 years.
Carrie, I wonder, when voters reelected Donald Trump, did they essentially give him a stay on everything? This was the one case where he had been convicted, and there are a bunch of others that are in various states of being either rolled back or they're just so far delayed they could be picked up again in 4 years. But like I said, a lot can change in 4 years. Did they essentially erase potentially the fact that he will ever face the music on anything?
Well, whether that motivated them or not, I'll leave to the political commentators. But with respect to the practical impact is that a president-elect and a president is in a unique position when it comes to prosecution. And specifically with respect to these federal cases, the long-standing Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel assessment is that you cannot have an ongoing prosecution of a sitting president. And so whether or not that is what voters intended, that is the practical result.